This is the last division lesson before we start reviewing for your test. We are on page 277, and we're just going to work with greater numbers. We have been working with 2 digits as our divisor this entire unit, so that will remain, but what will change is now we have some larger numbers as our dividend. The process is still the same. It just might take a little bit longer. So example 1, it says a large city has a total of 22,500 students that ride a bus to school. There are 75 different schools within the city. How many students are dropped off at each school? If an equal number of students are dropped off at each school. So we are going to let S represent the number of students, which is 22,500. And we're going to divide that by 75 different schools. So again, we want to figure out how many students are dropped off at each school. So the first thing we need to do is set up our problem. So 22,500 is what we are splitting up. So that's going to go inside, and then we have 75 outside. So we are going to first divide. So 75 cannot go into 2. It cannot go into 22. But it can go into 225. If I don't know how many times, I'm going to either estimate or I'm going to make a multiples list. So I have 75. I know that if I have 75 cents and I add 3/4 to 75 cents, I get $1, $1.25, $1.50. And then if I add those two up, I get $2.25. So it can go in and even 3 times. Now, when we get to this lesson, it's really important that we know where to place the 3. The 3 goes all the way above this 5 because it went into all of 225. Not into 22. If it went into 22, we'd put it above this 2. Then we multiply. 3 times 75, well, I can look over here and see that it is 225. When I subtract, I get 0. I'll bring down my next digit and I'll bring it back around and divide. 75 cannot go into zeros. So what I see a lot of you do is just you automatically bring down this 0. That's not okay. What you have to do is if it can't go into this number, you put a 0 here. Right? 75 can't go into 0, but we still have to go through the steps. So after we divide, we multiply. 0 times 75 is 0. We subtract. We bring it down, we bring it back around, divide. 75 cannot go into 0 again, so when it can't go in, we'll put a 0. 0 times 75 is 0. When I subtract, I get 0, and there is nothing left to bring down, so I'm done. So it is just 300. So we're going to put 300 there, and since S equals 300, that means 300 students are dropped off at each school. All right, on to 78. Let's go up to the top again. It says estimate the quotient of 46,534 and 152. Then we'll divide. So the first thing we're going to do is change this to an estimation. So in the previous one, I made a multiples table. This time we're going to estimate. We're going to change this to 45,000 and this to 150 because I know 15 can go into 45. Well, 15 plus 15 is 30. 30 plus 15 is 45. So that went in 3 times. If I take off a 0 here and a 0 here, I have 2 zeros remaining. So we are going to put 300. So my estimation should be 300. All right, and then we will start a division. So we are going to do 46,534 divided by 152. Again, I can make a multiples chart of 152 or I can estimate. So let's say, again, this is close to 150. This is close to 450. It can go in 3 times. So since 15 can go into, or 150 can go into 453 times, again, it's going to go all the way above the 5, not the 4, because 152 cannot go into 4. It cannot go into 46. So we're going to put it above 465. It's really important that we do that, otherwise we're going to have numbers that we bring down in the wrong places. Okay, so always ask yourself that. Then we're going to multiply 3 times 152. Well, I need to do that. Luckily they have done it over here, and I see that it is 456. When I subtract, I get 9. I'll bring down my 3 and I'll bring it back around and I'll divide. Can 152 go into 93? No. If it can't, I'll put a 0 there. 0 times 152 is 0. When I subtract, I get 3 and a 9. And then I will bring down my 4 and bring it back around. 152 into 934. So again, you need to probably, I always think it's easier to make a multiples table because then I can just look at my table and see how many times it can go in, or we can estimate. Again, if this is close to 15, 15 can go into 75, 15 can go into 45, 60, and 75. So that's about 6 times. So we're going to put the 6 up there. 6 times 152 is 912. And when I subtract, I get 2 and 2. Now, I don't have anything left to bring down. 22 was less than 152, so my answer is 306, remainder 22. Since the estimate is 300, and the actual quotient is 306, remainder 22, a quotient of 36 is not reasonable. So if you didn't put that 0 there, you would have gotten 36. 36 is not close to 300, so you know you did something wrong. That's why estimation can really help you know if you're on the right track. If you don't get close to your estimate, you did something wrong. Okay, so now there is kind of a missing piece to this puzzle. So this is another important skill where you look at a problem and you can identify what went wrong or what is missing. So again, 25 cannot go into 4. 25 can go into 47 one time. 1 times 25 is 25. When we subtract, we get 2 and a 2, and I'll bring down my 8, and then I have to bring it back around and divide. 228 divided by 25. Well, I'll probably round this to 225, and I'm going to ask myself, how many times can 25 go into 225? And I always like to think of money when I have 25s. And I know 25 can go into $1 4 times. So if I have $2, that's going to be 8. And then if I have $2.25, that's going to be 9 times. So 9 is the missing piece to this puzzle. And then we just finish the problem. Okay, you guys have the independent practice to work on. I'd like you to do just the entire page. I know it sounds like a lot, but this is a really important skill to have. If you can do this entire page, then you'll do fine on the test. We will go over the answers, so just when you're done, let me know.